A new one actually. 104.5 Vibes Radio at 11 minutes after 9. Hashtag morning vibes with Kevo Badman.
Yeah. Kawaida manze, you know, Africa number one audio and visual radio station manze. Kama for shizo, nobody can stop reggae.
Yeah, man. And if you're just joining us right now, frequency Nairobi ni 104.5 guys. Mombasa 98.7, Nyeri 98.8, Meru 107.1, and Eldoret is 107.5. Sasa, alafu pia, guess what? We're live. We're still live, and we're about to get into another crazy conversation. Itakuwa
crazy,
deadly.
as in like crazy. When we say crazy, we mean crazy.
Due to public demand,
Due
Kevo.
to public demand.
Yeah.
Part 2.
Part 2. Part 3 inaendelea because guess what? Prof alikuwa na drop bars maze too much wisdom.
Prophet Prof.
Very well articulated na mashida
Prophet
Prof.
Prophet Prof.
That's true. Prophet Prof. GWADA OGOT. Activist, Pan-African, researcher, author, kila kitu politician, everything and anything
Kenyan.
that a man should do. Maybe you know what, Prof, yeah? Nilikuwa na chiki, when was this? Master, I can't remember when. It was a book. I don't know whether it was a Donald Trump book, Out of the Deal. Alikuwa nasema at some point in a man's life, it is important for him to work for public service. At least local government.
That is true.
Do you believe that idea? Does it make sense?
I think the epitome of service through a man's life should be working in government. Government should be the destination where everybody is working towards, because even if you have been in the corporate sector, when you want to go and serve your people, you go and do it through government. So you can contribute directly to policies and other decision-making processes for your nation, and at that level for the future.
Private sector, you can do it, but not as such.
Private sector is directly profit-oriented for individuals. Sorry, the corporate sector, the private sector. But when you go to government, you should actually be doing it. It should be the greatest platform for ideal service.
I can imagine.
Yes. Community, you
people,
are seeing your ideas flourishing. You are seeing your people flourishing. You are seeing your people as a satisfied clientele and not as a mourning citizenry.
I love it.
I hope nasikia Prof Jama.
But there, you know me, I actually had experience pale Kisumu County.
Yes.
And remember one of the most impactful, Kevo, one of the most powerful experiences nilikuwa nayo. Ilikuwa hiyo time COVID ilikuwa inaanza.
Yes.
We used to work at the special programs department.
Yes.
Na hiyo time kulikuwa na some crazy floods in South Nyanza.
Yes.
So we were being directed to go certain places to peleka pale relief.
Yes.
And let me tell you, it's crazy what happens out here. Kwanza remote areas. Buddha, people suffering.
True.
It is true.
Don't live in the big cities ukidhania we're all together. No, we're not. There are Kenyans who are going through so much, and that's why it's important for you to work with community. Hata kama utapata chance ya kuwork na serikali, so at least you can give back. Be at service to the people, to your fellow Kenyans, in one way or the other. Yeah, so that was a,
and you know, when you talk of suffering people, compassion is one of the greatest attributes of leadership. Compassion, such that you can sympathize and empathize with your people and their suffering. And if you're able to do that, then you're able to generate new ideas and new policies that would help them come out of their suffering. The whole thing about a parliament is that you go there to find systems that can help people. It's not about distributing money. It's not about giving people money, but creating systems, ideal systems for people to express their skills. A nation is a collection of skills. That is why when you're here, you are a radio presenter. That is why I have been given all the titles that have been given here by many titles. That is why when you come to the city, John Gani, John Wastima.
John Wastima.
Na ule Martin Mato Plamba. Na ule Okashi ule waga driver. Ule nani waga daktari.
There's that kind.
You must have something you are selling in the city. And that thing is often a skill.
A skill.
Nani daktari.
Talent.
Nani ni plumber,
farmer,
nani ni farmer, nani ni mwandishi, nini writer, nani ni reporter. You must have a skill. Yes, and that's the way forward for this nation. A nation is a collection of skills, not just people. Skills.
That's a good way to start this conversation. Kumbuka guys, Professor GWADA OGOT is here with us. Kwa hivyo tutawafungulia phone lines, by the way, so you can get to say what's up. Salimie Prof, and then maybe unaweza changia, throw in a question or two.
This is the Modern Vibes on Vibes Radio.
know you can feel the love right here on Vibes Radio. 104.5 Buddha Morning Vibes.
Hatar.
Hey, very dangerous. You're tracking it for Feel the Love by DJ Ryan. DJ Private Ryan, and I hope when I like who's your guy. Spyro Tiwa Savage is on the way right now. Tuko kwa conversation ingine deadly sana.
Hatari sana.
Hanging out with Professor GWADA OGOT. He's a Pan-African, an activist, a politician, an author. You know, he's everything.
Yeah, in one.
And he's our brother. He's our brother. Kwa hivyo, chance ya kupiga simu nitawashow. Remember the lines are always open on 0719012700. Now, let's get right into it, Prof. We've just been talking about your importance ya kufanya kazi kwa serikali in terms of impact, working with community. Inafanya unako na empathy, you're compassionate. Unaelewa ground fitting. When it comes to choosing our leaders, Kevon anapenda kusema tunafaa kuwa na civic education, understand the roles of different positions, all these political things. But do you think, Prof, tunafaa kupatia msee job, especially now, for example, the position of a member of parliament, Amata CS, we give an individual who has no history whatsoever when it comes to public service. He's never worked in the public service, but he's here. He wants to serve Kenyans in the public service. Yet, he's never had any leadership position. Because tumeona many MPs, especially MCS, these guys wametoka to private sector, and now they're there to run taxpayers' money. What are your thoughts?
Thank you very much. One, the current electoral system and governance system overall that we have in place is faulty, and it is the cause of youth apathy. Two, you will clearly note through experience that there's a disconnect between the role of the member of parliament at the ground and the role of the member of parliament in parliament. Probably one of the poorest performing segments of our society is parliament. Parliament should be reviewing bills consistently, reviewing laws consistently that align or that make governance much easier. They have not done that. When they go to the ground, what the parliamentarians mainly do is attend social functions, be they funerals or weddings or sports events.
Or seminars.
But in terms of engaging the people directly, there's a problem. Why? The structure is wrong. For example, with the new devolved system, where funding, a large part of the funding, or part of the funding, not a large part, has been devolved to the ground. Why should I, as the member of parliament for Kisumu, spend more time in Nairobi and less time in Kisumu, yet the people I represent are in Kisumu? How about if there was a system where each and every MP is turned into a deputy governor and made to have an office at the governor's office on the ground, and then for 90 days or occasionally a calendar can be drawn, they come to Nairobi, or one or two of them after they have done a collective report, come to Nairobi and sort out the issues at hand and return to serve their people.
Exactly.
That is probably one option, one school of thought. Two, we have to ask ourselves about the processes of electing leadership. What is the qualification for leadership?
Exactly.
When you look at the leadership laws, one of the things that has been put in for you to be a leader is that you must have a university degree.
Exactly.
But a university degree simply means that your capacity to consume is confirmed. But it doesn't at any time confirm your capacity to produce. So the most productive, who are therefore the most innovative, do not get a chance to move because of what you call academic apartheid. Where those who have a university degree feel that they belong to a tower that nobody else should arise to, and therefore leadership comes to them naturally.
Exactly.
But you see, they are the least productive because they have risen there courtesy of consuming knowledge by other superior scholars or processed knowledge rather than by production of knowledge.
So how should the people know ati umse akoko ballot is a productive guy? Yes,
you must have a record. And then I'm still proceeding. The third one is the electoral system. What we have is a spatial electoral system that is based on space. It might work in Europe, it might work in other places, but maybe not in Africa. Why? We, like I said earlier, are a commonwealth of ethnic groups. When I go to campaign in Kisumu, I use Luo. When I come to Nairobi, I will use English. When somebody campaigns in Mukurweni, he will campaign in Kikuyu, he or she. But when you come to the city, you have to use English. So that multilingual nature comes in automatically because the people on the ground, a large percentage may not understand English, but understand Luo. So the factor of language comes in representation. Has the use of a foreign and unifying language at the national level cut off a lot of able people who cannot speak English? And is my expression, do I become intellectual by speaking English? Can I be an intellectual in speaking Kamba? Or can I be a Kikuyu intellectual?
Of course you can.
Can I be? So those are the questions we need to ask. So what I'm saying, we need to shift our electoral system from space to quality. Space is quantitative to quality. Where we divide electoral systems based on skills.
So
that doctors and medical workers elect their best. Journalists and media people elect their best.
Politicians.
Politicians, everybody's a politician.
But Prof, I was getting to that. Then how do you know a politician, he's productive, he can do the work?
All you have to ask,
how do you vet?
What have you produced?
A good one, okay.
I mean, if you go somewhere and you say that during the period I was in Nairobi, I was able to contribute to the commencement of this newspaper that is today reading, this is my work. During my time, I helped with the creation of this. I am the producer of this knowledge. I have 10 patents. I have 10 copyrights. Something tangible, substance, as opposed to sheen. You see, right now, the concept is just sheen. People have no... Listen to parliamentary debate. Listen to the debate at the apex between our leadership. They're not discussing ideology. They're not discussing substance. It's personal.
Drama.
It's personal.
Prof, so mi kulingana vile ku understand na vile kimtani, as in like you are like this kind of system that we are trying to use or trying to borrow, sio yetu. Should we as African re-educate ourselves?
Or redefine our governance.
We need to redefine our governance systems completely, where we are able to accept that ours may be a system that is tired based on one, at the primary root, family, at the next stage, ethnicity, at the next stage, national identity. So we need to factor in those in terms of constructing our thing. But because of our ethnic roots, which are very strong, because this is the root of many ethnicities. If you come to those who speak Somali, you will find them here and in Somalia. If you want those who speak Luo, you will find them here in Tanzania, Uganda, South Sudan and Sudan. If you want those who speak Luya, you'll find them here, you'll find them in Tanzania and in Uganda as well. Moving the Bantu language spread from here. This is the nucleus of, this is where it began. And when you find Luo the same, this is the spread. Now, you start asking yourself that if we have certain special, unique qualities and unique identities, have we factored them in terms of structuring our governance systems? And have we really had, you see, when you look at Bomas, most of what happened at Bomas was influenced by foreign interests. There was a lot of Mzungus who were influencing what was going on in terms of the government structure. So we came up with what is essentially a convenience for them. But we didn't think it out at the local level. Secondly, once we have identified these, we have to redefine how we elect our leaders. It should be based on your ability to produce and not your ability to consume, and that is what it should be.
Prof, are you here telling us that kuna tribes, minority tribes in this country, based on our system, electioneering system and our governance model, there are certain tribes that will never enter State House. They will never be in that leadership
as
position.
Long as
they will never produce a president.
I wish to say this.
If
I have somebody from the Turkana community who is a master of the computers, is a master IT, an IT person, or is a doctor of profound knowledge, and he goes to the fellow doctors and tells them, I want to lead you. Will he lead or not? And if based on leading the doctors, he gets a chance then to say that with the doctor's support, this professional support from all medical workers in the country, who will vouch that that is a true professional, can this man lead the nation? Yes. If there is a GEMPS person who is, and then by the way, at skills level, whether it is sports, whether it is entertainment, there's people there who are masters in the field. If today Olunga comes and says, I want to lead the sports sector, the sport, because if you divide them into, say, maybe 20 sectors, each producing a committee of leadership at various levels, with one at the apex. I want to lead the football sector. They will say, this man has played in teams. He is of good character. He has good capacity at management level. And he has also proven himself as a skillful person who has carried the national flag across the world. He is worthy of leadership. You know, not based on his tribe, based on his skill.
But that's how you're looking at it is in the ideal situation.
Yes.
But the way things are on the ground now, mambo ya tyranny of numbers and how we vote as a tribal block, it's unlikely that we'll have a small tribe getting into state house, right?
And that's why these solutions that I am talking about. But again, I do not want to look at it from a fatalistic position that if my tribe has no numbers, then I will not lead. And I will give an example. Not on the tribe, maybe a European example. In the US, the so-called black community make up about, I think, 13% of the population. 13%. But Obama rose from that crowd and led, courtesy on the strength of his intellectual capacity. The difference between Obama and the McCains was not cash. They were way richer than him. But the content of his character, the substance in his mind, and more so his oratory. Life is style, substance, and strategy.
I like that.
Yes.
So guys, we're hanging out with Prof. GWADA OGOT, an activist, a politician, a thinker, author. And he's also got an amazing book tunapitia tukirudi hapa. It's called The Cannabis Testament, The Great Light of Canon. Right now at 9:30, Spyro Tiwa Savage wanna come through with Who's Your Guy.
This is the Modern Vibes on Vibes Radio.
104.5 Vibes Radio. Skiza guys, it's 9:35 right here, and we're having a good conversation with Prof. GWADA OGOT, an activist, an author, politician, Pan-African. Tunabanja hapa hivi on a light note, maneno, of course, the youth agenda, his book that we're about to touch on, The Cannabis Testament, The Great Light of Canon, and also politics. Prof, before we touch on this book and we touch on this marijuana conversation, Kevin Ojoani, one thing that usually stands out for me, and one thing that I'm so interested about is the youth agenda, maze. Ukiangalia situation for the African youth, especially Kenyan youth, wase any hawana interest, wase wame switch off. People don't want to engage in policy making conversations. People don't want to vote. People don't care. People don't even care. Nilikuwa nabonga na guys fulani, some rappers walikuja hapa, nikoliza watu hii buda unajua nani ni CSO sports, kema tatujali
yeye inanihusu nini mimi
maze. How did we get here maze? Because it's sad now, wanasemanga the future is for African youth. We are the majority kwanza in the continent, but wase wadai ku engage. Where is the disconnect? Tulifikaje hapa?
One is the education system. Another wrong application, wrong software for education system. The education system, as was designed by the Mzungu, was an exclusive contraption that brought together the sons of chiefs and other local aristocrats or elites to perpetuate their leadership and to continue doing so by consuming this knowledge against the rest. For example, when you look at our education system today, the people who it brings forth, how many of them have ever created or invented a new idea?
Almost none.
I mean, look at our universities. The books, the library books that fill our universities are almost 90% from European scholars. How many universities are even churning out books? If we cannot fill our libraries with local content by local writers, then we are still colonized mentally. Yes, that's where it starts. And the education system has left out the most skillful members of this society, the ones with the capacity to bring patents and copyrights, have been left out by the education system because these are people who are dealing in theory mainly. Now, the child who can make a TV from zero, how do you test him in his current education system? But he's the one with the capacity for a patent and with the capacity to employ more people and a product to sell universally. But there's no space for him. How do you place the child who can fix a phone without, maybe he's in Form 1, but just has a passion for fixing phones? He can make radios. People who can create. How does our education system today accommodate the creatives? And it is the creatives who transform society, not the consumers.
What are your thoughts about CBC then? CBC will tackle that problem.
No, CBC is very wrongly constructed. I have gone through CBC and I have written a whole, what you call a knowledge system of these things that I'm talking about. That was probably my next book because it is ready. CBC is a good idea that was picked by some people, but the people who picked it could not express it. One of the biggest thing of the university generations, the ones who come in through knowledge consumption, is plagiarism. There is so much plagiarism in this country of knowledge, where the biggest plagiarizers are the ones who are posing as the most able academically in society. Many of them cannot produce, but if they hear an idea, pop, they have taken it. Then they go and run with it, mess it up, cannot express it further, and dump it there because it was simply to add value to their CVs and to make them some money. Now, plagiarism. If today we had a system where people are rising based on creativity, where there's some common areas like language, geography, those are common areas. But the key area or the key focus of society is on knowledge production. What would be the problem with plagiarism? Because I know that Kevo is creating some new model of a ship, a radio, a TV, something that a robot. I cannot steal it. And I know that everybody is doing something different. So you have a specialized focus in school that you're challenged to produce from the very beginning. Where your passes or 60% of your grades are based on what you have produced and not what you have consumed.
Oh my God.
That is what we need. So that this is an equal opportunity system. Whether we're mtaani, whether we're ocha, una kitu unaweza produce. Where we need to shift that, involve society. When you're involving society, schools must have an opportunity where if there's somebody within that local community has a patentable idea, you can actually go to school, to a school nearest you, you register it there, and you help to develop it and patent it.
And now
that's what we need, because education is not about the children going to class or knowledge. It's about that community. Yes.
It's interesting.
It's the empowerment of the community.
Kabla uingie hapo hivyo Kev, I'm curious, Prof. Now, exactly, practical ways, briefly in 10 seconds. How can we encourage youth? Why engage, maze? Be more active.
You see, what is happening? The disillusionment is here. Most of the youth have seen. The only gap that the youth are now seeing mainly for progression is through sports or music, because that one is equal. Yani unapewa chance, imba dadi. Kama huwezi imba ule anaza imba aingie. Kama ni ball unataka kucheza ball, si ati wewe ni mtoi wa nani, si ati umetoka chama gani, ingia uwanja boots hizo cheza. Kama huwezi toka nje. Lakini sasa hii kila kitu kutoka chuo, kupita mtihani, kupata job ni deal.
Ni deal,
sio skill zako. Now if we have a system where you're just told, hey Jake, you want to work here? Show us what you've done. Put it on the table.
We'll pay you for your work.
We'll pay you. This is productivity. Put it on the table. This is what I have invented here and there, and I can invent more.
No, man.
Thank you. Get a job. Si ati wewe ni mtoto wa nani, si unajua nani, buda wako ni nani, umetoka region gani, si ni wa Westlands, hapana. Ability yako weka mezani.
Unaleta value, unapata returns
straight away.
Kev. Na so far, Prof, mali game yetu imefika. Ni ma links. Tuonge tu ni links zinasafari.
Links, social links.
Kweli.
Yes. Na
sasa the Pan-African dream.
Yes.
Hii ya kushikanisha hii si kwanza sisi tuanze kwanza tuko kitu kimoja.
Yes.
Ina future kweli.
Iyo Pan-Africanism, also we need to remodel first of all our identity.
True.
You see, when we talk about East Africa, West Africa, South Africa, North Africa, those are divisions that were created by the colonialism in terms of who was taking what. We have even language, secondly. We have what you call the English-speaking Africa, French-speaking West Africa. Come on. What are we saying? We need to redefine that first.
I saw Mali dropped the French as their national language.
Yes.
Is that a step in that
even Nigeria.
Rwanda, we must give our local language. You see, I cannot express my total culture in English because I can.
Kevin told you about this.
I can only express it in my language. Now, if you say English, can English speak for Kenyan languages, which are older than it? English is a child. Actually, English is a grandchild of most of these languages.
True.
So it cannot adequately represent our vision, our institutional memory. It is too small. It's like taking information that should be fitting into a 10 GB and trying to put it into a...
It's crazy, but
a 2 GB.
How did we start self-hating? Yani ile kujichukia, like for example, hata siku hizi unachiki parona nasema I don't want my son to learn Luo. Sitaki mtoi wangu aongee Kikuyu, anafaa kuongea English. Where did we start hating our African narrative? Who we are, our real authentic selves? When did we start? It's shocking.
Again, it's the education system.
Yeah.
The perfect family, the perfect child, the perfect place is always pictured as Western, white, and conforming to certain characteristics. When somebody speaks in vernacular, it is assumed that one is a fool. When somebody cannot express in English, that one has no mind. So there's the issue of language. The issue of language is very critical here, you see. And it is on that note that I've told you I was working on a new universal dictionary that brings these languages together to be able to prove that the local languages we have here are the mothers of Kiswahili, the mother of English, and the mother of all those grandchildren of our language.
It's amazing.
The book is almost ready, you know, through.
Tunarudi in a bit, guys. Professor GWADA OGOT is here. Brilliant prophet, man. Professor GWADA OGOT is here. Kauko na swali maze funguka. We're going to be reading those comments on the hashtag Morning Vibes. It's Kevin Kevo Badman. Alafu pia, I'll be telling you about the fact that you have an opportunity to own your own home, courtesy of the government of our country, the government of Kenya, and the stewardship of our president. Amesema, you know what? Once and for all, unaweza kuwa owner of your own.
Watu wache kulala nje.
Yeah, maze. Sawa. It's 9:45. Tuende kazi. Good morning. Busy signal up even the signal in Nairobi is 104.5. Wasewa coast maze, coast to Mombasa, you can find us in 98.7, Nyeri 98.8, Meru 107.1, and Eldoret 107.5. Quick one, we have Professor Prophet GWADA OGOT right here with us. We're talking about Pan-Africanism, and we're about to get into this marijuana conversation. At 9:48 pia ningependa tu kukukumbusha that you can be a homeowner maze. You're young, booming in Nairobi, you're excited about taking your life to the next level. Skiza, the affordable housing program is an initiative by the government of Kenya and targets the delivery of decent and affordable housing to low and middle income households. And so now Kenya wanasema the demand for housing units is at 250,000 annually, but the market can only produce 50,000, and that's where the government comes in. They're saying what I produce, what I deliver the additional 200,000 units annually. So if you wanna own mazi unafaa kuregister, save and own. Register on www.bomayangu.go.ke. Enda hivyo kwa simu yako, dial *832# and follow the prompts. Ama pia unaweza visit your nearest Huduma Center and get all the information that you need so that you can be a homeowner maze. Pia unafaa kujua progress iko on the current ongoing projects. Maze.
Hapo ndio unaona iko maze. So far unasikia wanakuambia point ziko 426 potential projects set to deliver 647,922 housing units maze across the country. Na current ongoing project manze ziko 9,935. Recently launched manze ziko 36,092, and of course project contracted and ready for launch ziko 31,000 manze. Na area ni kwanza hizo za 31,000 Makongeni affordable housing ziko 30,000, and of course Theka 1,000 manze. Hizo tunaenda kuzifungua bro.
For shizi.
Na kama kawaida manze unaambiwa the plan project ziko 570,895
units. It was the future.
Manze, all you got to do manze ni simple sana. Register, save and own. For registration unaenda kwa www.bomayangu.go.ke or dial that number *832# and follow the prompts, or just visit the nearest Huduma Center manze. Wapate hapo manze, waulize, waambie manze, tafuta itakuwa yako.
Na ukishaget keja yako please to invite
manze.
Tukulika nyama manze.
House warming. Ma DJ tuko, ma MC tuko.
Buda mbogi.
Manze.
All right, back into the conversation, Kev. Before we talk about the book, Prof, in 20 seconds, tumecheki our president William Ruto, he's becoming very popular outside of Kenya but within the continent. Watu wanasema, in fact we had a lady over here, she's from the youth parliament huko Tanzania. Alikuwa anasema, oh my god, nyi wa Kenya bana hamujui vile mko blessed sana bana, mko na president amokoka, and articulate issues very clearly. All these other things we hear about our president out there in the comments on the internet, in platforms like this one on TV. What is it that these people see about Ruto that we don't see?
I think if you have followed President Ruto, he has been making some very daring statements on trying to reform the global financial system, the dollarization. But all these are in my first book, which I published in 2018.
Nice.
Yes, that I don't know. that we need to de-dollarize for us to move forward.
Yeah, man.
And there's about 5 pages on that. And that we are headed towards the collapse of the dollar. We are moving into, we may be moving into the the gold finance system. We completely need to review the existing system because it is one of the clutches that is holding us back.
Right.
And let's give him credit. He has made a commendable job in presenting these facts out there.
Oh.
Yes, he's been doing well and he's been getting ovations speaking about these things out there.
Yeah.
But
does it make sense to you though? Like his messaging?
The messaging makes sense.
Yeah.
The only thing that doesn't come forward is what is being proposed on the table to be done. You hear, yes, this is what we would like to do,
talking,
but we do not know whether there's anything for us. And I think at this level, this requires that if there's anything like that, public participation. Do you guys, what he hasn't done is come out, use those platforms for local mobilization.
That's true.
Kenya, do you want us to de-dollarize? Give us a chance to contribute to that. I mean, if I had written about it in 2018, probably there's something I could see there. Do you want to de-dollarize? 2, do we need to define ourselves as a Pan-Africanist, with a Pan-African agenda that brings Africa together, not just as a trade bloc, but as a citadel of languages, as a citadel of knowledge? We need to completely reform the way we relate with each other.
All right.
And so far from amongst the peers that are there, because when you look at Africa, you may want to talk about most of the presidents, the levels of Mugabe no longer exists. The mental depth of the Mugabes that we don't get.
Gaddafis.
Yes, the Gaddafis, the ideals of the Gaddafis don't exist. Museveni has largely...
You wouldn't put Ruto on that level of the Mugabes, the Gaddafis yet?
No.
Yeah.
You see, what I'm saying is, there is people who have been there articulating this message. And then Museveni got caught up by his own words when he released Sowing the Mustard Seed. What he wrote in the Sowing the Mustard Seed eventually compelled him to withdraw the book from the market. He was caught up by his own words. Kagame no longer represents that fresh thinking. The person people are looking at in fresh thinking has been Julius Malema, who also has a universal appeal across the continent. There are certain areas you will disagree with him totally, but he is a voice that you can see speaking for Africa.
All right.
The new one. One of the new voices for that platform has been Ruto. He did well in the 2-3 sessions. He has given very good things. But locally, when you hear the way he speaks internationally and the way he speaks locally,
different.
They are completely different.
Prof, let's keep it moving. We have about 7 minutes. Kev, take it away. Your story, the marijuana conversation.
Yeah, manze nilikuwa nakuja hapa nyuma kidogo, unapata like before the 1930s to 35, marijuana was a legal thing. Ilikuwa inatumika kujenga manguo, kujenga hadi pesa. Prof, so far walami the western world ndio walifanya bank ikuwe illegal. On your take, my friend, do you think inaweza saidia wa Afrika kurise kwa hii mambo tumeka za economy, madeni, and so far na apart from just smoking, what is the benefit of this thing?
You see, briefly, Kenya, when you read the Holy Bible, the Bible says that I have given you all green plants and seeds for food and for other utilities. And the Bible is very clear about marijuana. When you read Job 40:21, when you read 2 Samuel 22:9, when you read Psalms 104:14, when you read Ezekiel 36:29.
What does Ezekiel say? 36:29.
I shall give you a plant of great renown. And one that shall relieve you from your hunger and shame. Then in 2 Samuel 22:9, it says that smoke was emanating from his nose, billowing from his nose. His mouth was from his mouth came forth a ball of fire, and beneath it was an urn of charcoal.
Maybe it was tobacco, Prof.
No, tobacco cannot be in the Bible. Tobacco is actually used for doing evil charms. It cannot be in the Bible. It is a harmful plant, and that is why marijuana is generally across Africa known as yath, medicine, or omsara, medicine, nidawa.
Yes. In fact,
it is the greatest plant plant ever. Everything has what you call a center. When you look at amongst the lions, amongst the wild animals, the king is the lion.
The lion.
Amongst all animals, the king is man. Amongst the plants, the king is marijuana. There's always a center. Kenya right now is caught up in an economic abyss that it cannot come out of, and it is unlikely to come out of. But the thing that can give us the most immediate solution to our problem within a year is cannabis. If cannabis is legalized today in this country, just like was done in, I think, was it Malaysia or Indonesia, where they were giving 1 million seeds. The Ministry of Health gave people 1 million seeds to plant. And from there, you start bringing in a new industry. Here today, if we were able, you see, like when you do maize, you need to do 20 acres of maize plus, 20 hectares of maize plus to make a profit. Now, the plant with the greatest value per space is marijuana. There's no question about that. And all we need is controls.
Yes.
That there has to be controls. There's nothing that has no control. And there needs to be explanation about usage. It cannot be left wild. We are parents.
Both parties wanasemanga, if imagine marijuana is legalized in this country, see watu watakuwa wamemedi sana, we're going to have vegetable children. No.
In Portugal, there used to be about 200 drug-related deaths.
Deaths.
As at 2002, I think. When they legalized in 2004, usage spiked for about 3 years. By the fourth year, to date, the deaths are 0 and 1. 0 and 1. The current things we're talking about is based on the compression from the ban. And most of these people who are talking about this ban are not talking about it based on their logic. All the people who banned marijuana is the UN. And the UN is not God. You cannot ban a plant. You cannot ban me from using the plant in my backyard. The UN is not God. Prof. And these people are voices of the UN, because the UN is the representation of the people who control global economy, global everything. It's about controlling and you know that cannabis is the biggest producers of cannabis in the world is Africa.
As we wrap
and
up
users as well.
I can imagine. As we wrap up this conversation, Prof, how long do you see, Mazea? For how long do you think it's going to take for us to legalize this, especially in Kenya?
As you can see,
because you're a prof,
their sins to sanitize themselves. There is no crime around this thing. The crime is in the law that was brought by the UN. There was no public participation when they were banning marijuana in this country. We may need in the future to have a referendum
at least
about those who want it. And because you cannot tell me that if I don't eat brown maize, I cannot operate in the country because you eat white maize.
It doesn't make sense.
Surely,
Prof,
is that possible? This
is a powerful book, The Cannabis Testament, the great light of Canaan. I see we're left with about a minute and a half. What on is Epata Wapi? And a summary in 20 seconds. What's this book about?
You see, there are many questions that have been asked about the marijuana, but we have had no reference point that deals with the historical, deals with the current, and the futuristic.
We have 40 seconds, Prof.
And the futuristic perspective of this thing. This book covers all that. Those who will want internet sales on Amazon will begin next week.
Nice.
But at the present level, anybody who wants can inbox Enoch Ra on Facebook or Enoch Ra on Twitter.
Ra is R-A.
R-A. You can make an order through there if you want. Just inbox, make an order. Then it can be sent. But internet sales will start next week.
Nice.
Yeah, that's so that we can get it. It will be 1,500, 1,500. It's a universal message. It's not Kenya centric. It's based for a universal audience to understand that there's a big conspiracy. Did you know that before every world war, the first place they start restructuring is marijuana laws?
That's crazy, Prof. I have to cut you short.
Anybody who controls marijuana controls the war and the economy.
Thanks a lot, Professor GWADA. OGOT imekuwa real. We need a part 3.
Hatujamaliza history.
Sanne kamili, guys. Peace out. Kevo Badman.
Tumeondokea manze. Kesho bora.
God bless you guys.